All right, here we go. We are looking at slope from a table, finding slope from a table. This is when we are given our x and y points, either in a table that's laid out vertically, right? These ones here vertically, or these tables that are horizontal, right? It doesn't matter if it's vertical or horizontal. We're going to use the same process to figure out what our slope is from these tables. Before we start looking at our tables, we're going to fill out a little bit of notes up on the top here, just some reminders about what slope is and when we are going to use the different methods to be able to find slope. So our first blank here, if we can remember that slope, when we are finding that on a graph, which is what we did at the end of Unit 2A, we said slope was rise over run, right? Rise over run, saying how far up are we going and how far over are we going on a graph. And so we are always going to use this when we are given a graph, right? So I'm going to say use when given a graph. Okay, rise over run. This middle one, we're going to say it is going to be our change in y over our change in x. Right? So the triangle in math just means the word change. And it's really meaning kind of like the subtraction, the difference between our two y values that are right next to each other over the difference in our two x values. Our two x values. That makes a difference. When we're given these tables here. So we're going to use this change in y over change in x. Use when given a table. Use when given a table. And then our last blank that we're going to fill in, we're going to put y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That doesn't need to make sense right now. It will as we fill in notes later on in this packet. But it is important to know that we are going to use this. Use when given 2 points. And so technically you could use this when we have our tables as well, but we're not going to look at this formula with tables. We're just going to look at it when we're given 2 explicit points. So let's look at our first example, our table A. It says the change in y over the change in x. All right, to get from 8 to 11, we're going up 3. To get from 11 to 14, we're going up 3. To get from 14 to 17, we're going up 3. Our change in x, to get from 0 to 1, we're going up 1. To get from 1 to 2, we're going up 1. To get from 2 to 3, we are going up 1. Our slope, this middle line here, right? This middle line says when given a table, we do change in y over our change in x. Our change in y is 3. Our change in x is 1. So our change in y over our change in x is 3 over 1. We can also write that as just 3. All right, let's look at letter B. To go from 10 to 9, I'm going down 1. From 9 to 8, I'm going down 1. And from 8 to 7, I'm going down 1. From negative 4 to negative 3, I'm going up 1, right? If you look on a number line, if I go from negative 4 to negative 3, I'm moving over 1 to the right, so that's plus 1. Negative 3 to negative 2, that's also plus 1. Negative 2 to negative 1, also plus 1. We say that our slope is our change in y over our change in x, so our change in y is negative 1 over our change in x, which is positive 1, which is the same thing as just negative 1. Either of these two answers would be correct. Let's look at table C. Going from 21 to 22, I'm going up 1. From 22 to 23, I'm going up 1. From 23 to 24, I am going up 1. To get from negative 2 to 0, I am going up 2, moving 2 spots to the right on my number line. From 0 to 2, I am going up 2. From 2 to 4, I am going up 2. The rule is it is our change in y over our change in x. Our change in y is 1 over our change in x is 2. Our slope equals 1 over 2. We continue. It's practice, 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 right? With math, we just do as many examples as we can so we start to feel comfortable. Because when this is the first time you're seeing this, it feels awkward. That's why we do multiple examples, multiple practice problems, so you can kind of start to feel the rhythm, figure it out for yourselves, kind of get into a flow of things. So here we go, change in y's. To get from 5 to 5, well, I'm not moving at all, so plus 0. 5 to 5 again, plus 0. 5 to 5 again, plus 0. I'm not moving up or down at all on my y-axis here. On my x-axis, to go from 0 to 1, it's up 1. From 1 to 2, up 1. From 2 to 3, up 1. Again, we say that it is our change in y over our change in x, which is also the same as 0. Again, either one of these two things are correct. All right, now let's look at a couple tables where the numbers may not always be the same. So what do I mean by that? All right, on this table I have all negative ones. Those are all the same. And then I have all positive ones. Those numbers are all the same. On table C, all these positive ones are all the same y change. And then this C plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, those are all the same x change. That's not always going to be the case, and that's okay. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. Let's take a look at table E. I have my change in x on the top. So to get from negative 3 to negative 1, I am adding 2. To get from negative 1 to positive 2, I am adding 3. To get from 2 to 6, I am adding 4. Okay, so already a little bit different. Our numbers are increasing. Our change is increasing. That's okay. We'll see here in a minute. Going from negative 10 to negative 8 is an increase in 2. From negative 8 to negative 5 is an increase of 3. To go from negative 5 to negative 1 is an increase of 4. So if I look at each one of these, let's see. So if I look at each one of these, I don't need a calculator to do this, but it's just so you can see it. Let's move this. Okay. My slope is my change in y. My slope is my change in y over my change in x. My change in y over my change in x. So if I go on my calculator and I say 2 divided by 2, I get 1. Now if I look at my next 2 points, I have a change in y over a change in x. 3 divided by 3 is also 1. My next 2 points, I have my change in y over my change in x. So 4 divided by 4 is also 1. So when I'm writing out my answers here, right, I have 2 over 2 equals 1. 3 over 3, that also equals 1. 4 over 4, that also equals 1. So my slope is 1. Right, my slope is 1. I can write 2 over 2, I can write 3 over 3, I can write 4 over 4, but really my slope is just 1. Okay, let's look at letter F. If I'm going from negative 1 to positive 2, that is adding 3. If I'm going from 2 to 3, that is adding 1. If I'm going from 3 to 5, that is adding 2. For my y values, if I go from 4 to negative 5, that's going down 9. If I'm going from negative 5 to negative 8, that's going down 3. And from negative 8 to negative 14, that's going down 6. So again, I have all different numbers here. But again, if I plug these into my calculator and I say, well, my rise over run, or I'm sorry, my change in y is over my change in x, negative 9 over 3 equals, well, let's find out. Negative 9 divided by 3 equals negative 3. Negative 3 over 1. I don't need my calculator for that one. That also equals negative 3. Negative 6 over 2. Also negative 3. And if you're not sure, do it in your calculator. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. And so our slopes are all the same. They are all negative 3. Okay. Letter G, from negative 3 to 0 is plus 3. From 0 to 3 is plus 3. From 3 to 9 is plus 6. From 2 to 4, that's plus 2. From 4 to 6, that's plus 2. From 6 to 10, that is plus 4. The slope is the change in y over the change in x, right? The y is on the bottom and the x is on the top in this table. But when I write my slope, it's the y that goes on the top of the fraction, so the 2 on the top. And the x is on the bottom, so 3 on the bottom. Same thing with my next 2 points, 2 over 3. And then I have 4 over 6. The number 2 can divide into both of those numbers. 2 goes into 4 twice, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. So I have 2 over 3, 2 over 3, and I have 2 over 3. So my slope is 2 over 3. All right, last one. Here we go. Quicker now. -2 to +2 is a +4. 2 to 4 is a +2. 4 to 6 is a +2. 1 to 3 is a +2. 3 to 4 is a +1. 4 to 5 is a +1. My y over my x, 2 over 4. That reduces down. 2 goes into both of those numbers. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 4 twice. So that's 1 over 2. My next point, it's my y over my x. So I just have 1 over 2. That doesn't reduce. It's 1 over 2. My last point, my y over my x, also 1 over 2. So my slope equals 1 over 2. If you're confused about the fractions and reducing, remember you can use your calculator for that. Let's take this example, -6 over 2. You can put that into your calculator. You do alpha y equals, all right, we do alpha y equals, no, why is this not working? Here, alpha y equals, enter, thank you. Alpha y equals, you get your fraction. If I do -6, I arrow down to 2, I hit enter, and I get -3 that way also. So you can use your calculator to help you reduce. You can use your calculator to figure out what the differences are between the x values or the y values. So if you need to, don't be afraid to use your calculator. Please do. Again, as always, if you have any questions about this topic, please see me in class, talk to your teacher, come to FIT, go to tutorials. Otherwise, I hope this helps, and I hope you look at the next video if you do find these helpful. Thanks. See you in class.